Good morning. This is Ageofdoge, and today we're going to talk about inflation. So, what does inflation look like? I made a nice little chart here for us to take a look. There's an imaginary little economy that I've built here in this starting pie chart. It's a very simple economy. This is a very simple country. We have a government. It's a substantial portion of the economy. And then we have Bob over here. Bob Bob does some things too. He's got a job. He spends some money. We've got Amy. Amy makes a little more money, spends a little more money, and then we have ShopMart. ShopMart. Both of these two, they work at ShopMart. They buy their things at ShopMart. And down here we can see how much of the economy each one of these uh, people, or if you want to imagine them as groups of people, uh, contributes to the GDP of our little country here. So the government makes some, Bob makes some, Amy makes some, ShopMart makes some. Okay. So what happens when, say, the government wants way more money? It's already taxing Bob and Amy and ShopMart quite a bit here to get all this money. It's taking up a pretty good percentage of the economy, but it wants some more money. So it's gonna inflate the currency. It's just gonna print some more money, about 10% of the total supply every year for the next 5 years. And I've just marked the new money separately out here in its own little piece of the pie. Now, obviously, as this goes on, this money is going to get doled out to various other people or organizations. The government, it's part of the government's spending. Um, but in say the American economy, this would largely go to uh, you know big pharmaceutical companies, health insurance through the Medicare, Medicaid, all kinds of bureaucrats and regulatory compliance people. Then you have military industrial complex, a whole bunch of that. Yeah. So and then even some payments on its debt. We don't have debt built into our economy here, but you can imagine all the standard things that the government does with the money. So this has changed the pie. What it's done is it's squished the rest of the pie down here. So now uh, the portion that it's taxing here is it's only $37 instead of $55. I'm sorry, inflation adjusted $37. So Bob here is still you know he's still making $20, but it's only has about $13.66 worth of buying power. Because despite the number not changing, it's a smaller piece of the pie because currency is an abstraction. Making more currency doesn't make more things. It doesn't make more resources. It just means that you now need more of it to buy the same resources. Uh, it's always going to add up to 100% here. So everyone has now a lower adjusted inflation. So unless you are one of the people that's getting this money first, your share of the pie just got smaller, even though your paycheck didn't. Your savings got smaller, even though the number on it might even be going up a little bit. Let's continue this for another 5 years. Now, what we've generated over that 10-year period is a much bigger chunk of the pie. And our adjusted incomes are getting pretty small here. So what can we do about this? Well, we could stop printing more money, but we don't want to do that. There's lots of good things we want to pay for. Uh, eh, all those government contractors, they need their paychecks. It's important stuff. So let's raise the wages. Bob's only getting about $8 a value now out of what used to be 20. He's the poor guy in this group. Let's give him a raise, okay? Let's give everybody a raise. So what happens now if we increase the wages? So we're going to increase the wages 10% per year to go along with this 10% inflation. So now Bob's making 32 bucks on a 5-year and after 5 years of inflation, and he's making 51 bucks after 10 years of this inflation with wages keeping up percentage-wise with the inflation. Well, that's, Bob's still gotta pay his taxes, so the taxes went up at the same time along with Bob's pay, maybe even more than this, uh, if they don't, adjust the tax brackets in line, but we're pretending they did, and it goes up, in lockstep. Well, if they're gonna pay more, they're gonna have to pay Amy even more now too, you know, and then ShopMart, if they're paying Bob and Amy more, well, they need to charge more for their products and services in order to maintain their profitability and keep their business going. So now Shopify is making $56. All the things Bob and Amy are buying at ShopMart, they're a little more expensive, but they make a little more money. And then we go down here, and eventually, God, ShopMart's making 90 bucks. Um, they can show year over year growth, looks really good for the stock price. The stock market's going up too because, you know, everybody's making more sales. All the numbers are going up, right? Constant economic growth. But then let's look at what it is inflation adjusted. Oh, are these the same numbers we had on the last page? Hmm. We have an inflation adjusted chart, and then we have an inflation adjusted chart where everybody makes 10% more money. It didn't change anything. It's unfortunate. Now, this might be a little bit counterintuitive, right? You're thinking, well, we raised the amount of money the government is taxing, the amount of money Bob is making, the amount of money Amy's making, the amount of money ShopMart is making. All these people, entities, are making more money, right? So they should be a bigger chunk of the pie. But we have to remember that this new money chunk of the pie, this isn't a new person or a new entity. This money is going into government programs, or it's subsidizing Bob's purchases, or it's you know, uh, the government's purchasing some products from ShopMart for the military. A little Acme TNT over here to go bomb somebody. All of this money is going into this economy. This is the entire economy. Um, so within one of these slices, let's say here, ShopMart, no country has a one store. You have a whole variety of all the manufacturers and retailers in the country, and some of them are getting this money sooner uh, through one means or another. And they're going to have an advantage over other ones in this pie. But these slices of pie collectively are the entire economy. Um, so while it might seem like the slice should move, it really doesn't, and you can see that reflected in the relative value of a lot of the goods and services over time as we've experienced inflation. How much of something did a silver dime buy versus how much um, that value of silver would buy now. It doesn't work for everything. There are some disruptive technologies that have made certain goods and services radically cheaper than they used to be. But as a general rule, it works. Pushing up the number doesn't change the share of the pie because money is an abstraction. It's a very useful abstraction that allows us to keep track of things. Um, it allows civilization to work, uh, but we shouldn't mistake pushing the number up for adding actual value to an economy. That's all for today. If there's other concepts you'd like me to explore, feel free to leave a comment. Thanks.